In this tutorial, you will create a ball that bounces off a ramp and towards the corner of the room. Eventually, you will build a block tower that the ball will crash into. But first, you need to get that ball rolling. As you complete these steps, you will learn how to create new 3D shapes, apply custom materials, and implement physics in our scene. Unity provides you with a number of primitive shapes that you can add, including a sphere, a cube, a cylinder, a capsule, and even a flat plane. These simple shapes can be used as building blocks and as placeholders for more complex models. And here we are going to create a sphere and rename it as ball. In the hierarchy window, if you right click in an empty area, you will see all kinds of game objects that we can create in Unity. Here I will come into 3D object and I am going to select sphere. The sphere name is currently editable, or if I deselect it, if I want to rename it, I can just select it, press F2, and I am going to call this as ball. Now eventually this ball is placed at some point in your scene. Actually now I am in the game view. I will come into the scene view and you can now see that the ball is placed somewhere randomly. I will come into transform, and if I click reset, it will be placed exactly at the origin point. This ball is too big and I have to make it small. Selecting the ball, coming into the inspector, I will enable edit constraint proportion option in scale, and in X I will type 0.25. Automatically all the three values are set to 0.25. I will move it along the Y axis like this. So to precisely set the position, I will come into position, and along the X I will set it by 2 units, and along the Y axis, which is the height, I will set it to around 3 units, and Z, which is the forward backward movement, I am going to set this value to -1. I will press F to zoom in into the ball, Alt left click, turn around the ball, and you can see now our ball is precisely placed. As of now the ball appears gray, and now we have to edit the look of this ball. We are going to control the look and the type of material of any game object using materials. I will come into the project window, come into Unity profile contents, and you have a folder called materials. Double click to open it. Already there are 4 folders here. I will right click here and I am going to create a new folder, and I am going to call this folder as my materials. Double click to open this. Now I will right click, come into create, and I am going to create a new material, and I am going to call this material as ball_mat. Now to apply this material to the ball, in the scene view, either I can drag this from here and mount it on this ball here, or in the hierarchy window. So in the scene window, I will drop it over the sphere. I will select the ball, and if you come into the inspector here, under mesh renderer you have materials, and if I open this, you can see that this has been given the material ball_mat. Now if I want to edit this material, I will come into project and select this ball_mat, and immediately in the inspector you have this material option. Workflow mode is set to metallic. I will leave it as it is. I will come into surface inputs, and in the base map color I am going to click here, and I am going to select some kind of a cyan color, and I am going to close this. Then you have the metallic map, and if I increase this, you can now see that the ball turns more shiny as I drag it to the right. I will set a value of around 0.5, and smoothness, you can see how the reflection, if I move it to the right, it creates more of a reflection. I will also set the smoothness value also to 0.5. Now I will come into file, I will save this. If I just play the game You can now see the ball is floating in the air. In reality, due to the application of gravity and physics, the ball, as soon as we start the game, should fall down. So to apply physics and make it follow all physical laws like Newton's laws of motion, we have to apply a separate component for this game object. Stop the playback. Now I will select the ball and I have to come into the inspector, scroll down, and here you have an option add component. Click on add component and in search for rigid body, select the rigid body, leave all the options as it is default, see that use gravity is ticked. Go to file, save this, and now if I execute the game, you can now see the ball drops. However, normally a ball when it drops, it bounces and it moves. Here, this looks unnatural. To create a realistic effect of a bouncing ball, I will stop the playback. Now, inside this Unity profile content material, my material, we have this ball underscore mat. I will right click here and I am going to create a new, this time a physics material. So I will choose this physics material and I am going to call this as ball underscore physics. And with this ball underscore physics selected, if you come into the inspector, you have various options: dynamic friction, static friction, and bounciness. Here for bounciness, I will set its value to 1. I am going to drag this ball physics and I am going to apply it to this ball. If you select the ball and if you come into the sphere collider, you can see this ball physics material applied under the collider. Go to file, choose save. If I execute the game, you can now see the ball drops and pitches naturally. Now I will stop the playback to just observe what all components we have added to this ball to create this realistic physical movement. I will select the ball and if you come into the inspector, you can now here see you have transform, then you have sphere mesh filter, and under mesh filter we have the shape sphere selected here. You can see here, see for example instead of sphere, if I select capsule, this shape changes to capsule. I will set it back to sphere, close it. Then below this you have the mesh renderer component, and here if I switch it off, only the outline is visible but the ball material is not visible. I will enable it, and under mesh renderer you have material, you have lighting, you have probes, ray tracing and additional setting. All these are under mesh renderer, and below that you have sphere collider and it is set the material of ball physics is set here, and below that you have rigid body. Select 01 bedroom, double click or press F, and next here when the ball drops, if I place some other game object here, what is going to happen? Let us explore. I am just going to add a ramp here. If you come into the project window, Unity profile contents, and inside this you have prefabs, double click to open it, and in this you have a folder called shapes. Double click to open it and here you can see the ramp. Now drag the ramp onto the scene. So you can see the ramp is placed here. Selecting the ramp, come into the inspector, open transform, rotate it along y axis by -90 degree. Now press F to zoom to that area, then roll the mouse back to just zoom out a little, middle mouse click and turn, I want this ramp to be placed exactly below this ball. I will come into this gizmo, right click and come into the top view and right click and disable perspective view. Then I will drag this and place this exactly below the ball like this. Set its x value to around 2, y value to 0.4 and z value I will set it to around minus 0.8. I am now going to right click and come back into the side view. I will right click on the gizmo and enable perspective. Come to file, save this, play. Now when I play it, you can see that the ball pitched, but it went and sat inside the ramp. Now you may ask, when the ball hit the floor, it didn't go down, but when it is hitting the ramp, it is going inside. The reason for this is, if you select this object, that is 01 bedroom, if I open this and if I select floor and walls, and if I open floor and walls and if I select one of the floor here, for every floor object I select, it is attached with a component called box collider. However, if I come into the ramp and if you see here, you doesn't have this box collider. I will come into add component and I am going to type COLL collider and I am going to select box collider. I will press F and if I zoom in, now this box collider is placed all around this ramp. If I save this and if I play the game, now you can see that the ball, without touching the ramp, it is getting blocked here itself. I will stop the playback. This is because the collider shape is not matching with my geometry. I will come into the box collider and right now I am going to remove this component. I will come into add components. Here instead of box collider, I am now going to add another type of collider called as mesh collider. If I type mesh here, you can see mesh collider, and if I add mesh collider, now you can see that the mesh collider shape is almost matching my geometry, and to precisely match it, I will enable the convex option. The shape of my collider and my geometry is set as the same. Now I will go to file, save this, and now if I execute the game, you can now see the ball pitches and falling on the ramp, it is moving. So this is now appearing more natural. Next, we are going to create a few block towers that our bouncing ball will be able to knock it over. So to make our first building block, we are going to start with a primitive cube. Just like we added the sphere, we are going to add to the scene a cube and we are going to rename it. I will just come into 01 bedroom and press F to zoom out the entire area. Press Alt left mouse to turn around to the required angle. Come into the hierarchy window, right click, come into 3D object, and this time I am going to add a cube. Now I am going to call this cube as block and press enter. And you can see now the cube is placed somewhere randomly in the scene. Come into the transform and I will come into these 3 dots and reset it. Now I will press F to zoom to this cube. Now this cube is again too big. I am going to scale it. I am going to come into the scale and along the x-axis, I will scale it by around 0.1 units. And z-axis also I will scale it by 0.1 units. And y-axis I will make it around 0.25 unit. I will come into the scene and along the y-axis I will pull this and place it on the floor like this. I will right click on the gizmo, come into the top view, and I am just going to roll back to zoom out, and I am now going to drag this and place it in the path of my ball. So I will come to file, save this, and now if I play it, you can now see the ball goes and hits my cube. It is not passing through the cube, but it is coming back, because if I stop the playback, you can see for this cube, the box collider is applied by default. Say for example, if I switch off this box collider, come to file, save, and if I run the game now, you can see that the ball goes and it passes through the block. So I will stop the playback, select block, and I am now going to enable this box collider again. However, if I want this box to react to my ball, say for example when the ball hits, if I want that to fall down or knock out, then for this block I have to add the component Rigidbody. So I will come into add component, type Rigidbody, and I am going to add Rigidbody. I will leave all the values as it is, go to file, save it, and now if I execute the game, you can now see when it hits, the block is falling down and the block falls and remains at the same position. And if I want that block to move away, then I have to reduce the mass of my block. So if I select the block under Rigidbody, I can control the weight of my game object. Right now it is set to 1. If I make this value 0.1, now go to file, save it, and now if I execute this, you can now see it goes and hits. You can see a greater movement here because the weight of my block is less. Now I will stop the playback. When we want to duplicate a particular game object multiple times, then it is always better to convert our game object into a prefab. If you come here, project window, into your Unity profile content, you have a folder called prefabs. Right click and create a new folder, and I am going to call this as my prefabs. Double click to open this. Now to convert this block into prefab, I will select the block, drag it into my prefabs, and immediately you can see how the color of this block changed from light gray color into blue color. I will just right click, turn around, press Q and move down. I will select this block. I will press F, move closer. I will just drag it and place it just above the floor. Let us make multiple copies of this block and place it one above the other as 3 different pieces. So for that I will just roll the mouse, right click and tilt up, press E to move up or Q slightly to move down. I will come into this view and then select this block, drag it and put one more copy over the top of it like this. So as I drag it, you can see it is snapped and placed just above the below one, and you can see here this is called as block 1. Then I will just middle mouse click and drag up. I will drag one more block and put it above this. If I roll down, now you have 3 pieces placed one above the other. So here I will just select this, press F2 and call the first one block 1. Select the second one, press F2 and I am going to call this block 2, and select the third, press F2 and I am going to call this as block 3. Go to file, save this. And now if I execute the game, you can now see when the ball goes and hits, all the 3 pieces are getting knocked out. So now I will stop the playback. I have to add some material. Now in the previous case, when we added the material, we came into Unity profile contents materials, and you have different materials here. I can double click on interiors, and here if I select object, you have different materials available here, and if I select it, you can see the preview here, and here I have different material and I am going to select this block yellow. and if I drag it from here and attach it to this object like this, the material is applied to my prefab and not to my model. So when I apply it to my prefab, only that particular model color has changed. I will go to edit, undo this assign material, then I will come back here into Unity profile contents, prefab, my prefab, and this time I am going to select the block, and instead of adding the material by dragging, I will select the block, come into the inspector, open mesh renderer, open material, and in element right now you are seeing lit. I will click here, and in the list I am going to type yellow and I am going to select this block yellow. I will close this. You can see now this material is applied to all the 3 blocks. Now I will go to file and I am going to save this. Now this is one single pillar constructed by 3 blocks, and I want this entire thing to be as one entity. I can come into the hierarchy, select block 1, with shift selected I select block 2 and block 3. Now right click and you have one option here, create empty parent. The keyboard shortcut is Ctrl Shift G. And when I click on create empty parent, and I am going to call this as block tower and press enter. Now this entire block tower is one single unit, and I want this block tower to be converted into a prefab so that I can place multiple copies of this next to each other. I will come back here into my assets, and in assets I am going to open Unity profile contents, open prefabs, my prefabs, and inside this drag this block tower and put it here. So now I have this entire block tower as one single unit. Right click on this gizmo, come into the top view. I will just scroll down, and if you see this, I have created one path here and I want to place multiple copies of this. So I will place one to the left. I can select this block. I will press F2 and I am going to call this as 1. Then I will press Ctrl D to duplicate this, and along the X value I will place it to the side, little side like this, and I am going to select the second one and I am going to press F2 and I am going to call this as block power 2. Now I select both of them, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and along the Z axis I will move it slightly like this, and then I am going to call the top one, press F2 and I will call this as block tower 3, and I will select this 2 1, press F2 and I am going to call this as block tower 4. Now next I am going to select all the 4 now, press Ctrl D, and I am going to slightly zoom it out and I am going to move it, and I am just going to drag it and place it like this, and I am now going to call this as, press F2 and I will call this as 5. I will call this 3 1, rename, right click rename, and I am going to call this 6. I will right click and rename this 2 1 as 7, and right click and rename this 4 1 as 8. I will right click, turn around, press Q to come down, E slightly to move up, press S and move out. So now you have these blocks arranged. I will go to file, save this, and if I now execute this and check the game, you can see it goes and hits and all the blocks gets knocked out. Now I will stop the playback. Now coming into the project window, in assets, Unity profile contents, prefab, my prefab, I am now going to select this block tower, double click, and this is going to open in the scene view as a separate piece here. So I am now editing this prefab collection of block 1, block 2 and block 3. And here if I select the block 3 and if I move it out and if I just check these blocks, if I want to precisely align it and make it align exactly with one another, we call something called as the vertex snapping. Vertex snapping means, say for example, I select this, I move it to different locations like this, I will slightly move it, then I will select this block 2, and when I am moving, if I press V and if I drag it, you can see the vertex point here. I will drag it and attach it exactly to this vertex point, and if I leave it, this is perfectly aligned. Now similarly, I select the block 3, press V on your keyboard, then the vertex point is here. I will just drag and align it with this. So now this is precisely aligned. So I will select block 2 and I will press E to come into the rotation, and I am going to rotate it along the x-axis by 45 degree and press enter. So now if I deselect, you have an ununiform structure like this. I will go to file, save this, and now if you come into the scene view, now all the actual pillars have the same kind of structure. If you want to add some pieces on the top, select the block here and I will drag it and place it on the top here like this. Along the z-axis, I will rotate it by 90 degree. Then I will right click and come into the front view, press F, press W. I will just drag it and place it above here, or I will right click here, come into the left view, I will just drag and place it clearly. So to precisely place it, I will switch off perspective view, I will zoom out so that I can precisely place it, press V and I can vertex align it. I will come into the back view, here I can see, and this is aligned. I will slightly move it to the side. Then I will come to the top view now. I will select this block, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, drag it and place another copy here. I will select block and block 1, middle mouse click and pan. I will select block and block 1, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, then I will drag it and place it in the next blocks over here. If I right click, turn, and if I press S, I am in the isometric view. So when you are in the isometric view, if I right click and press WASD, it's not going to work correctly. I have to right click and change it into perspective view and select this block, press F2, and I am going to call this as top block 1. I will select block 1 here, press F2, and I am going to call this as top block 2. Then I select the block 2, press F2, I am going to call this as top block 3, and finally this block 3, I will press F2 and I am going to call this as top block 4. Now I will go to file, save, and now if I play the game, you can now see it drops, it hits, and all are going to fall down like this. So if you come into the scene view, see how the destruction has happened. I am going to stop the playback and go to file and save this.